For being here. Today, we're going to talk about new legislation that's being introduced bipartisan to create hate speech policing under the guise of anti-Semitism. It's calling for federal agencies to create a task force and even police and counter speech online. Sounds too crazy to be true, but of course it is true. And to anybody paying attention, they've been pushing further and further and further on this topic for a long time now. I'm going to do my presentation. We're also going to talk about O.J. Simpson, the football player who never had anything controversial in his life. Rest in peace, rest in paradise, obviously. And, we'll do a brief intro on O.J. Simpson. Then we'll get it cracking. Thumbs up in the chat if everything looks good. Dream Rare Podcast starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? I got to set this one up. I didn't have an intro video, so just got to make sure everything's cracking. Let's see who we got in the chat. We got YouTube. We got Facebook. Looks good. Someone said you're always already talking when I get a notification. Well, at least you made it here. That's why I try to ease in on the intro. Apparently, there's a lot of O.J. Simpson haters out there. I didn't really realize this until today. It's like all these people online. I had no idea. Maybe they're opposing fans of the football team he used to play on or something. But all this like OJ hate out of nowhere. It's like really weird to me. But anyway, I did find something controversial on O.J. Simpson before we start the show. I just want to show you real quick because I missed this whole controversy. Honestly, I didn't even know. So here's the controversy I'm talking about. It says, I got mine. O.J. Simpson boasts about getting a COVID-19 vaccine while wearing the juice face mask. So I guess, he got heavily vaccinated and said, I got mine. He was promoting the vaccine. That's the worst thing that he's ever done for sure. So, I guess there was some controversy that I was not aware of with that guy. Anyway, let's get into the real story. So I posted that on Twitter. I said, this is the worst thing O.J. Simpson's ever done. And all the comments were like, are you serious? There's something worse than that. And do I have to answer if I'm serious or not? Am I? I don't know. You could decide. Let me know in the comments. You think he did it or not? Jokes aside, because that whole thing went over my head, but I've been lied to so much. I wouldn't weigh out all the options at this point. However, it's not what this stream's about anyway. Sorry for starting it that way, but sorry, I'm not sorry. Let's get into the actual story. So there's a bipartisan anti-Semitism bill that's calling for federal agencies to create a task force to police online speech as well as other things. I've warned of this for 5 years now. Anytime they try to police hate speech, I'll show you the presentation, but I just want to start with this. And it's not I told you so. It's just basic common sense and American liberty principles that hopefully people on both sides can pick up before we lose it and turn into Canada and Europe. But if they start policing hate speech and pushing anti-Semitism laws and rearranging legislation, they're going to use it. They're not just randomly passing it in South Dakota and Florida and Georgia for no reason. It's not like, here, let's redefine what this word means and put hate speech phrases into law. Okay, well, why? Because that goes against the First Amendment. It's like, oh, shut up, you anti-Semite. It's like, yeah, let's just throw our First Amendment out the window for sure. That makes total. It doesn't make sense. And of course, they start slowly, push it further. And this seems to be, at least in my view, one of the biggest escalations of it. Let's read. Bipartisan group of lawmakers to introduce bill targeting anti-Semitism. This is just part of the article. It says, under the legislation, the national coordinator would help implement the landmark plan, which outlined over 100 steps that federal agencies have committed to taking since the strategy was released by the White House last May. The coordinator would serve as the president's key advisor to counter domestic anti-Semitism and would chair a new task force to coordinate the implementation of the plan across agencies. The legislation would also require federal agencies to submit a report to Congress detailing their implementation of the strategy, enabling oversight authorities to identify and recommend new, better ways to counter the spread of anti-Semitism, including online. When have we heard the word task force before? It reminds me of COVID. I'm not saying it's because of that, but Yeah, so they're not talking about violence. They're not talking about countering like horrific terrorism that's illegal and just wrong in everybody's eyes. They're talking about policing rhetoric, speech, and what they perceive as anti Semitism. I've said this before. Most of my audience hopefully has done this. If you're new or you just never have at the time because you don't want to look at this stuff, I would suggest going to Google, DuckDuckGo, or whatever you use and type in defining anti Semitism State Department. There's a reason it's on the State Department government website. That's the definition that the government, including all federal agencies, are going to come together to create a task force, which, by the way, Donald Trump will not shut down. He's just as bad on this topic, if not worse, than Democrats. Him, DeSantis, Governor Kemp. It's all a false paradigm. They all do it. They all like, there's no way Trump's going to shut down this anti Semitism task force that Biden's creating. Trump's worse on the topic than he is, but they always fake fight over this. Like they're both not the same. Really interesting. But anyway, go to the State Department website, defining anti-Semitism. If you search it, you'll find it. And you can learn the definition of anti-Semitism. It's not what Jeremy Boring says. It's not what people debating Candace Owens say. It's not what the person on Twitter says. It's not what Mark Levin says. It's not what Dennis Prager says. It's not what Ben Shapiro says. It's not what Dave Rubin says. It's what's on that website. That's what's being passed into legislation. And it's a list of multiple hate speech phrases. I'm going to show a clip right here of Dennis Prager breaking one of the anti-Semitic rules, which is you're not allowed to say Jewish people are, I don't know, in charge or in control of like major institutions such as media. Here's Dennis Prager, who happens to be Jewish and a huge pro-Israel advocate, perhaps one of the biggest. Here's him breaking one of the anti-Semitism speech rules. You wonder if federal agencies are going to try to counter, Dennis Prager's just horrific anti-Semitism. Let's see.
Every ism except Nazism was founded and or led disproportionately by Jews. You name it. Marxism, humanism, socialism, environmentalism, feminism, Jews.
So I don't know what the context of that is. I'm sure I've seen him talk about that before. He says, there's a lot of bad things disproportionately being done, but also there's a lot of good things like Nobel Prizes in science and medicine. So you can't just look at the bad, that's Dennis Prager's, talking points, which is fair, accurate, I think. But at the same time, he just broke one of the anti-Semitism rules. You're not allowed to say that, the people that must not be named are behind any of the groups, which Dennis Prager claimed they were pretty much disproportionately represented in all of the groups. And if you do any research or any, I would say, history lessons of your own on any of those groups, like Dennis Prager said, feminism, socialism, Marxism, environmentalism, homosexualityism, a lot of the major players in that were Jewish. I mean, you can just look it up, Harvey Milk, etc. Yeah, I mean, he's historically accurate here. It's not saying everyone was. Of course, there were some like other people that were in on those movements. But all I'm saying is I don't really care what Dennis Prager says. I don't believe in hate speech. I don't think it should be policed. I don't care what he says about Christians or Muslims or Jewish people. I think Dennis or white or Asian. I think Dennis or black. Dennis Prager has the I believe the First Amendment right to say edgy jokes, edgy truths, edgy conversations, suspicions, opinions. I believe that's protected by the First Amendment. But thanks to this legislation, it is soon going to be policed by government agencies. I'm guessing it already is, but now they're going to establish an even bigger task force to stop and counter any sort of anti-Semitism, which if you've paid attention to my show or really reality for the last year, everything is considered anti-Semitic now. If you disagree with Israel, that's anti-Semitic. If you suggest that their military ever did anything wrong, Ben Shapiro considers that blood libel. If you happen to be Jewish like Dave Smith and you're just a really honest American citizen who's loyal to America, that's anti-Semitic, obviously. They're calling him anti-Semitic because it's kind of like with Candace Owens. Like a lot of the black community was really upset by Candace Owens, almost more than they were upset at white people because they felt like Candace was betraying her by being conservative. I feel like Dave gets a lot of heat because he is Jewish and he's an honest guy and he loves America. So, I almost feel like a lot of Jewish communities feel a little bit betrayed by Dave. I saw after our interview yesterday, just the accusations of anti-Semitism were pouring out. So what's going to happen when federal agencies create a task force to police online speech? I think they're going to try to turn America into Canada and Europe, where free speech is no longer allowed, which you've already seen happening over the course of the last 8, 9, 10 years. Everybody's seen it, especially conservatives. Here's the problem. What people don't want to realize is, as bad as Democrats are, corporate wise, Facebook, Google, YouTube, they're rigging all the algorithms. Everything is, rigged against Christians, rigged against conservatives. It's pro what the left believes in every single topic, LGBTQ, whatever. It's all rigged. It's actually the Republican Party that's even worse when it comes to legislation. I would say it's almost equal because Biden sucks and he's clearly doing this and it's bipartisan. But Republicans are almost worse than Democrats when it comes to passing legislation through U.S. Congress, through executive order that redefines what hate speech is. So, if you think that America is going to turn into Europe and Canada, once again, Trump, DeSantis, and the entire GOP, it's the rhinos and Trump's different. No, Trump is in on this. DeSantis they're all in on it, except for Thomas Massie and a few others. Maybe just Thomas Massie, I don't know. But Republicans are controlled opposition. And if people just go, well, everyone but Trump's controlled opposition, you're going to get the results of Canada and Europe the same, because in order to counter this, you have to admit it's happening and realize that these politicians are really serving their donors, which soon you're not going to be able to say that. Like you saw during COVID, I brought this up with Dave yesterday because I think it's a fair analogy and just comparison. During COVID, all scrutiny of the pharmaceutical industry was considered, I'm going to make up my own word, anti-pharmetic, which is like anti-Semitic for pharma. But it's like, I'm just joking, but it's anti-pharmetic in the sense of like, oh, you're disagreeing with the World Health Organization. You're disagreeing with Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. Oh, you think side effects exist, even though we know that they do. And we signed the, these executive orders and bills and the PrEP Act, et cetera, to protect ourselves. But we're going to pretend like it doesn't exist, even though every commercial shows that it does. Yeah, we saw that all happen. But anyway, it's like any like talk of this stuff was basically considered hate speech or anti-science. And the truth is, politicians are lobbied to do this. They're paid to do this. It would be like if I started selling, State Farm insurance one day and you're like, Anomaly, why'd you just start selling State Farm insurance on your channel? Well, because State Farm paid me like they pay Aaron Rodgers and everyone else. They're not. I'm just saying that's why I'm selling it. The reason Trump sold the vaccine is because he got lobbied by Big Pharma. He got lobbied as well. I know he's your hero. Oh, cry more, fake patriots. You can't see through the false paradigm. You're going to ruin the country for your kids and your kids' kids. Grow up. Get over it. Tell the truth. Stop lying to yourself. It's embarrassing. Anyway, fast forward. It's like, oh, Joe Biden's pro-mandate. He took even more money from pharma. You notice these patterns, and you notice these patterns with all the people passing the anti-Semitism hate speech laws. They're mostly being lobbied by major multi-million dollar donors. But you can't say that they're getting lobbied because they're trying to, just like Big Pharma said, disagreeing with them is now hate speech or anti-science. You have donors trying to basically push laws that say it's anti-Semitic to say that they're getting paid off to sell out the Constitution, which is exactly what they're doing. But eventually you're not going to be able to say it in America, which is what they want. So people better wake up soon, because this country is getting closer to turning into Canada and Europe with the hate speech laws. And Trump, DeSantis, Kemp, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and all the other fools, they're complicit. They don't care. They're in on it. They'll sell you out, just like January 6th. Oh no, I lured the patriots to this Fed trap, and what? It's like they probably purposely led you there. I mean, you research enough of this stuff, and it's like they're clearly not trying to preserve the First and Second Amendment. They're getting paid off by massive donors. Like maybe they're purposely setting you up. Maybe they're just the other side of the coin, or maybe they just magically are just so dumb they don't see this stuff coming. Like it's so obvious. I want to show you 3 times that these anti-Semitism rules have been used against the people passing them, including Tom Cotton, who is just wildly pro these hate speech laws. Everything's hate speech to him unless we just sacrifice America for Israel. That's the only thing that doesn't seem to be hate speech. He's like, let's get in wars for them. It's like, does everybody get in wars all the time for us? Like, who's defending our southern border? Where are all our allies? Where's Canada, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Ukraine? How come none of them are crying about our southern border? Because no one gives a shit about us, because they care about their country because it's smart. Only American politicians like Tom Cotton are literally willing to like throw America in a pit of fire for any the people that he's definitely not getting lobbied by. Wink, wink. Anyway, so Trump, Trump, Ted Cruz, and Tom Cotton, they've all in one way or another passed legislation to police hate and call everything anti-Semitic. And the funniest thing about this is all three of them have also been called anti-Semitic because they're making everything anti-Semitic. So obviously everyone's going to be anti-Semitic when anti-Semitism means everything. Here's three examples. Trump's long history with anti-Semitic tropes. He says them all the time. He breaks his own laws. Ted Cruz, anti-Semitic dog whistles, said the New Republic. Ted Cruz passed legislation, then broke his own rules. And even Tom Cotton, there are articles saying Tom Cotton won't stop tweeting about Soros prosecutors. What does he really mean? They're hinting that Tom Cotton is an anti-Semitic dog whistle by constantly talking about George Soros, who is obviously Jewish. So, they sell out the American Constitution, totally not for their donors. You're not even allowed to say that they have donors. They sell it out and then they break their own rules, and then the media calls them anti-Semitic. It's hilarious, but it's just like so embarrassing and ridiculous. I'm gonna read a few comments real quick, but before I do, I just want to say, the solution to this is people realizing that it's happening. They use the left-right trap, and it sounds like, oh, well, what are we going to do if we can't vote our way out of this? It's like you're not going to be able to vote your way out of this. George Bush, Obama, Trump. Trump didn't stop the lockdown. He declared it. Trump didn't stop the pharmaceutical onslaught. He funded it. You understand the Republicans are controlled opposition, including Trump. If you say, oh, they're all controlled opposition except for Trump, then you're just kicking the can down the road for 5 more years. You're no different than a liberal who's like, Joe Biden's really going to fix the things. It's like, except he's not, though. Maybe he'll pretend to for a year to try to win another election. Now you got Joe Biden running around saying he wants to close the border wall. That's diabolical. It's like you're going to leave the border open for 4 years with Mayorkas and then close it just to win an election. Diabolical, but that's what politicians do. He's also floating the idea of letting Julian Assange free, which is crazy because if Biden was the one who let Julian Assange free, that would just be so embarrassing for Republicans who probably want to kill or leave him in prison. That's what Tucker Carlson claims, that the people Trump hired wanted Julian Assange dead. This is crazy stuff. Speaking of that, someone said, what do I think of civil war? It's not going to happen because most people in America are fat and lazy and brainwashed, and the left doesn't know what they're doing. They can't even take off a medical mask. The right wing believes in every Fed trap and every communist, socialist controlled opposition jump off. It's like there is no civil war. The civil war's in your brain. It's telling you to stop lying to yourself. In my personal opinion, anybody that yells civil war, it's like, where are you going to go? To the next Donald Trump Fed trap so he could sell more vaccines and pass speech laws against the Constitution? He's setting the trap. So the real civil war is both parties realizing they've been tricked. Democrats who watch Rachel Maddow realizing they've been fooled. Republicans who worship Donald Trump like a biblical character, admitting, lowering their ego, admitting that they got tricked. That's the revolution. The revolution is peaceful and it's simple, but you got a bunch of people just role playing, sitting on the couch, acting like they're George Washington. You're not doing nothing. Neither are any Republicans. They're not even on your side. The amount of Republicans that are on your side, it's Thomas Massie, and he's doing what smart people do, which is calmly just planting his own food and living like a holistic lifestyle with his family. I mean, that's pretty much the solution to this stuff, not yelling civil war on Tim Pool's Beanie Bunker podcast. I want to show you a tweet that I thought was funny, even though I don't trust RFK. If you want to know why, watch my interview with Dave Smith yesterday. Trump put on True Social, he said, kill FISA. It was illegally used against me and many others. They spied on my campaign, Donald J. Trump. And Robert Kennedy said, maybe he shouldn't have signed the reauthorization the last time then. Sorry, I'm trying to do an impression of both of them. I don't know if that's rude or not, but it's more rude to sound not like them. Anyway, RFK is completely right on that topic. It's like Trump's like, kill FISA. It's like, didn't you renew it last time with the Patriot Act renewal? It's like, dude, politics is literally WWE. It's like Trump uses Julian Assange to win and then hires somebody that wants to kill Julian Assange. Biden gets in and claims he's going to get Julian Assange out. RFK claims to be an outsider, yet he bends the knee just like every politician does and can't answer money about lobbying money, says he's not a politician, even though he's literally entering politics and talking He doesn't say, I'm not a politician about anything else except for that. Donald Trump saying he wants to kill the bill that he literally signed back into law. It's just like, it's all just like rotting people's brains, and it's creating this false left-right paradigm. So people just pick a team because they don't care when you pick a team. Like obsessing over Biden and hating Trump, now you're not a threat. People say civil war. Like it's like a mental battle. It's not a war. It's like an information battle that Americans are losing, and they don't even realize they're losing because the left just hates the right and the right just hates the left. And I could psychologically analyze why this is happening. It's called ego. People are too egotistical. They're too stubborn. Try telling a Rachel Maddow watcher that they're wrong. Dude, they might hit you with a broom or something. Get the oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. Rachel Maddow. So, like, Rachel Maddow is a psychopath. You know, she's crazy. She's like, the amount of psychosis that lady has caused is astronomical. I'm not even a fan of Fox News. I'm just saying, like, watching Rachel Maddow for 10 minutes is like psychotic. Watching it for 4 years straight is insane. And then you watch like Fox News and they're just screaming about China while their politicians are flying to a different foreign country, passing laws against the Constitution. And none of them say anything on Fox News because they'll get Candace Owens, just like anybody in conservative media, Prager, TPUSA. Everybody knows this, guys. You think I'm just talking shit. Everybody knows. You talk about Israel, you get kicked out. Why? Because that's the Republican Party. You have to pass speech laws for them, hundreds of billions of dollars of foreign aid, sacrifice your country. But that's hate speech to say that it's happening, even though there's senators saying that we should get involved in these. It's like, yeah, you're pro-Putin if you don't want to support Ukraine. It's like, you just can't be American nowadays. Anyway, the solution, just like the left, we could all laugh that Rachel Maddow viewers are brainwashed. But how many people are willing to admit that Donald Trump worshipers are brainwashed? You know, that now it's like, oh, well, no, I got to be right because they're right. Neither side is a threat. And I would even go as far as to say with the QAnon stuff, I haven't talked about it in a while because I just ignore it. But it's like a psychology pushing of the right wing. It not only pushed millions of people who believe in QAnon and all these fake decoder ops that are all over the place, but also just the normal Trump supporter got moved into that, where like even your average Trump supporter that is like, yeah, I really like him and I support him, they're kind of cued out of their mind too, because they're like, he's a biblical character, trust the plan. You're like, why did he print all the money? And they're like, oh, because he had to, he's playing chess. And it's like, it basically took 100 million patriots who normally would be like, let's point out that corruption so then Trump will not do it. Because actually, if everybody pointed it out strongly, Trump is a politician. He will change. You know, the politicians blow with the wind. Joe Biden now isn't Joe Biden 30 years ago. Why? Because the country and the culture has shifted. So Joe Biden's whoever you want him to be. And Trump has a few things that he's strong and principled on, but a lot of things, if his supporters would point it out and take a strong conviction towards it, Trump would have to do it. But he doesn't have to do it because everybody's cued out of their mind saying, trust the plan. So the elites and the donors are just stomping all over your face. And these people are saying, thank you, Zaddy. Can I have another? You know, that's the truth. So it's like the right is just as brainwashed as the left. They don't want to admit that this all is happening. It's like, you know, social media wise, Democrats are rigging social media more than Republicans. That's a fact. I don't think it's even debatable. Liberals, progressives, socialists, communists, Democrats, whatever you want to call them, they're rigging almost all social media platforms. They're the problem on social media. When it comes to speech legislation in America, Donald Trump sucks. Ron DeSantis sucks. They're pushing anti-Semitism hate speech laws into law, and they're going to be further and further and further and further. And look at Canada, look at Europe. They're pushing for the same exact type of hate speech policing. They're just starting with Israel and Jewish people because they know Republicans and Zionist boomers are brainwashed out of their mind. They think that they should sacrifice their First Amendment for a foreign country that literally, you know, a large portion of the people there don't even respect you, your religion, or Jesus Christ at all. They think he was just like a self-hating person who was a liar, you know, and that's your Lord and Savior. And you think your religion calls for you to sell out your First Amendment for like, it's like boomer, like Zionist boomers are like so brainwashed. It's insane. But that's why they're starting with these laws. Because if you went to like a Trump rally and said, hey, we're going to sell out the Constitution for Black Lives Matter, everyone would be like, no, don't do that. That's crazy. But if you're like, Israel needs this, and everyone's like, yeah, yeah, no more free speech. Yeah. It's like they've been doing that for 5 or 6 years. But the true reason, this is why I'm so interested in the Candace Ben Shapiro thing, it's not because of the drama or the controversy. It's because this is what they've been trying to sweep under the rug for 6 years now. Why is Fox News never talked about this stuff? Why does Daily Wire never talk about it? Why did Matt Walsh only make a video about it once he got a backlash? Why does Dave Rubin support this stuff? Why does Prager never talk about it? Why does Turning Point host a bunch of frauds on their stage and never tell you? It's a concerted effort to never tell you about this. And I don't want to be called hateful. It's because of donor money. These people don't like Jewish people or Israel. They like money. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you think Joe Biden just really likes Pfizer because he took like millions of dollars from pharmaceuticals? Oh, yeah, he just really believes in the company. You could believe that if you want, but money talks. You think Aaron Rodgers gives a shit about State Farm, or Steph Curry cares about Subway sandwiches? No, whoever pays them enough money, they just do whatever they say, like they're a bunch of drones. Subway, eat fresh. You think Steph Curry woke up and just said, oh yeah, I'm going to eat fresh at Subway today? He's way too healthy to eat Subway often, if at all, unless he does sometimes. That's the same thing the politicians are doing. It's not hateful to say they're getting paid big bucks to sell you out. And people are the dummies in the comments that are like, buy. It's like, buy, dummy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. I'm sorry, but it's like, what don't you understand about this? If you don't even believe in your free speech and your First Amendment, and you get, and this is the threshold. If you get more mad when people point it out than you do at the politicians selling you out, maybe the elites are right about you. Maybe you do deserve whatever they have in store for you, because you're clearly not even, that smart or respecting of yourself. Maybe they're right about you. I hope not, but it's like when you're like, no, someone on, like, I pointed this stuff out and someone in the comments goes, man, you really changed. Who paid you to say that? And it's like, you could prove that some of these politicians are getting awards at donor meetings. Like, they're taking so much money and selling you out so hard that their donors are giving them full-blown awards for selling out your Constitution. And it's like, you don't think they're selling out, but me pointing that out is selling out? Like, what are you, an idiot? No wonder they think you're like such a moron. You are, like, maybe they're right about you. It's like, they're like, look at these peasants. These people are so stupid. You're like drooling. You're like, I love getting my First Amendment taken away. It's like, then you're an idiot. Like, congratulations. You're too dumb to like. And I'm sorry, but like, I hear horror stories from Canada and Europe, and it's like, they're like, you think it's bad there, you can't believe how bad it is here. It's because the people are just either weak or subservient there. And America, the best part about America is that we're not there yet, but they're pushing us there. And you got fake opposition conservatives. They put on a red hat and they think they're doing something. It's like, if every Trump supporter stood firm and said, let's not do this, then they wouldn't do it. But nobody says that. And anybody that doesn't talk about this, it's been 6 years now, they know about it. I don't want to go down the list, but if you gave me every influencer, I could tell you who talks about this because they mean well and who's just sucking up money. You have to understand, if I didn't talk about this, there's a possibility you could add another zero to my bank account. That's how profitable it is. Like, if I had no ethics whatsoever and my goal was to just make money, I could probably add at least one more zero to what I'm doing, because there's a lot of money in selling out Republicans. It's like Yuri Bezmenov. If you've ever seen his speech, Yuri Bezmenov said that the communists and the Bolsheviks, they didn't care about left-wingers. It's one of the greatest interviews ever by G. Edward Griffin interviewing Yuri Bezmenov. But, my best impression, he goes, never bother. My professor told me, my instructor told me, never bother with leftists. They're useful idiots. They're already destroying themselves. Aim higher. Get into high-level conservative media, because they've already subverted the left-wingers to the point where the left is subverting themselves. The real money's in subverting the Republican Party. You understand? It's like, if you can get Republicans to not believe in the First Amendment, that's where the money is. It's not in getting left-wingers to not believe in it. They already kind of don't, So any influencer that doesn't talk about this stuff, they're either very low IQ, which is possible. There's some dummies out there. They're ignorant, or they're purposely ignorant because they know that their ignorance adds another zero to their bank account. Oh, Yeah, that's how I know. I'm not going to name names because I'm a nice guy, but I know certain people that have millions of followers on Instagram. I had this conversation with them in 2020. I said Republicans are selling out the First Amendment under the guise of anti-Semitism, and they said, "Yeah, you're right." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's crazy, right?" Yeah, and they happen to be half, the ethnicity that must not be named. So I'm just, it doesn't matter, but it's just like some people have a religious reason that they're not talking about this. Others people have an ethnic reason. They're biased and they're cool with it. But if they ever told you they were cool with it, if they ever came out and said, I'm cool with hate speech laws for my race and my religion in America that supersedes the Constitution, it's going to turn us into Canada, nobody would like them. So that's why they go, hey, the left. The left, ha 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 ha. I know they know this stuff. I had this conversation with them privately 4 years ago, and I'm not saying who because I'm respectful. I'm just saying, like, you think that they're out there just doing this stuff, not knowing about it, or it's like, and anyone in the comment section that's upset by this, explain to me why it's okay to infringe on the First Amendment and put together a federal agency task force among multiple agencies to counter rhetoric and information online, including everything that Republicans say constantly, because they constantly break their own rules, because the definition of anti-Semitism has been so widely blown out of proportion that it includes almost like everything. Let me see. Someone said all the so-called West is being flooded with illegal immigrants. And the thing is, our allies are purposely doing this to us. And I'm not saying it's the only reason, because there's other things, but look up the conservatives in Israel. They're writing op-eds in the Wall Street Journal saying, why doesn't America take all these refugees? Literally, the conservatives in Israel are writing op-eds in American media saying, why doesn't America take all these refugees? I thought they were all terrorists. Why would we want to take in a bunch of terrorist refugees? You just told us they were all terrorists and they were all supporting Hamas. Why would we want them? Also, have you not noticed that we have an immigration problem already? This is what our ally, nobody gives a crap about us, but there's no blame to be had except for yourself. If conservatives are this stupid, they deserve it. This is why all these, and I'm sorry to get on my high horse, but it's the truth. And this is the peaceful, healthy truth, because when you play the victim or you blame other groups, then you become an angry person. I'm not asking you to blame anyone. I'm telling you to blame yourself, okay? Because if conservatives are so dumb that they can't figure this stuff out, no wonder why people are making 6, 7 figures, 8 figures in some cases, telling you, just blame the left. Look at the left. Blame the left. Yeah, because that makes you feel good about yourself and feel like you're doing something when you're just as bad and complicit as them. And there's always going to be a topic that flips the script. And this Israel war is exactly that. Now you have blue-haired liberals with pharmaceutical masks on crying that they want the First Amendment again. And you got Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro making the case for, but like, the protests and Hamas and blood libel, So it's like they just flip the script on everybody. And the good thing is a lot of people understand this, but it's just annoying and frustrating, because it's like America, this is us. This is our culture. I have a lot of friends from Canada, Australia, England. And the truth is, America is pretty cool. And a lot of people look up to us. If you go to Japan, they're wearing Adidas sweat jackets and trying to be rap stars. America's cool. We got the culture. And one of the things that makes America so cool is the fact that we're not so pathetic as much as other countries. And I'm not saying everyone's pathetic there, but their politics, their culture, it's kind of pathetic. The men are pathetic. The police are pathetic. They have batons or something. You can beat up a police officer. I'm not saying it's illegal, but it's like they can't even defend themselves because they got like a little stick in their hand. And, Robert from Morocco's got a machete or something. But I'm not saying all, just to make my Donald Trump moment, not saying all people from Morocco are robbers. I'm just using an example. There's a lot of great people out there, a lot of good people, okay, on both sides of the wall, okay? There's great people in England, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, Islamic, okay? Sorry about that. But America's pretty cool because we have the First Amendment. Australia, not all of them, not the libtards, but the conservatives, they wish they had that. Canada wishes they had that. Europe wishes they had that. Most Americans at this, are European because they came here for a better life and more opportunity. Like, a lot of people here are part European or of European heritage. So it's like America's cool because of the freedom of speech, the Second Amendment, and a few other things. There's other cool things about America, but that's what makes us us. That, like, what makes you American? The flag, the freedom, the liberty that is as much as you could hate on this and that and George Washington, if you really understand liberty-based texts and the Constitution, there's a reason libertarians like go to sleep, hugging that sort of stuff. It's because it's incredible. Like, I've read a lot of stuff. It's incredible that the founding fathers had the foresight to do that and even had the thought to even give it to the people. Like, that's not normal in most societies. It's an experiment. It's interesting. It may or may not work, but it's pretty cool. At this point, look who's running the show. Look at the Democrats. Look at the Republicans. You don't want to give your First Amendment to Joe Biden. And to be quite frank, you don't want to give it away to Donald Trump either, or any group of people or any race or any religion. Like, why would you? And then, idiots like Tom Cotton, they pass all these anti-Semitism bills, and then he cries about Soros all the time, and they call him, sorry, I almost knocked that over. They call him anti-Semitic. Of course, because of George Soros' ethnicity. That's what the bills are. They're trying to quash criticism of people of that ethnicity. So then the doofus then runs around, passes a bill, and is like, Soros, Soros, Soros. And they're like, you're anti-Semitic. And he's like, no, I'm not. And it's like, yeah, of course you're not literally, but you just rearranged the definition to say what you're saying is anti-Semitic, dummy. That's why you shouldn't police free speech in America, dummy. Or evil. I don't know if you're dumb or evil, but you're selling out the Constitution, bro. God bless you, but I don't care how much Saddam Hussein's gold you took selfies on. You're selling out the Constitution of America. If that makes you feel good or that's what you want to do, but that's what you're doing. So when you get called the hate speech word and you say, of course I'm not, I love them, you don't get what you're doing. It sucks. So that's what makes us cool. That's why everybody wants to be Americans. Not everybody, but a lot of people do. If we lose that, we're going to turn into Canada and Europe. This country's already turning into it slowly, but it's like they're slowly subverting the First Amendment. And when they did it in 2019, you could see where they were going with it. And it's like, I know you don't just come out and rip the First Amendment out. You pass this, then you pass this, then you pass this. And it's like a test. All this stuff is a test, and we're failing the test. COVID was a test too. I'm not saying that's all it was, but it's like, how subservient are people? How many people got the vaccine in America? 70%. That was the protest. There's probably millions of vaccinated Trump supporters that are like, civil war. The real, and I'm not saying it literally was a civil war, but like the real test was a peaceful test of non-compliance. I don't care if you got it or didn't got it, but if you couldn't even not comply, shut up about the Civil War. The Civil War was you sitting in your house and not getting a pharmaceutical shop for a free donut or a trip to Hawaii or a job. That was the first test. If you failed that, no one's scared of your little Tim Pool beanie bunker tweets about being angry. Of course you're angry. People should be angry at themselves. It's like, so then you move forward to this. It's been 5 years of Republicans selling out the Constitution, and nobody even barely talked about it until Candace Owens got fired. And now all of a sudden it's like a mainstream topic, even though it just took that in order for it to be a mainstream topic for Matt Walsh, who obviously purposely shuts his mouth because he understands his job and his position will get a lot more difficult if he makes the First Amendment from the Republican perspective as big of a thing. Imagine if he talked about the reparations that Kathy Hochul gave Holocaust survivors as much as he talks about Black reparations. He says, I don't care about slavery. You don't deserve reparations. He talks a lot of shit about that. Okay, fair, ballsy. I wouldn't go as hard as Matt Walsh does on that topic, just being honest. But with that being said, would Matt Walsh ever talk about the reparations that Kathy Hochul gave out? Well, no, because Matt Walsh doesn't want to get called the bad word that's now being passed into legislation and going to have multiple federal agencies policing hate speech, and that Republicans are selling out, and that, his own company would probably call him anti-Semitic if he talked about. So he doesn't talk about it. So, it's like, that's the game everybody plays. And I'm not saying I know specifically that's why he's doing it, but I think Matt Walsh knows that talking about these topics at Daily Wire is difficult. And I think everybody knows now because of the Candace Owens situation. But in general, it's like, if we don't care about that, what do we care about? The First Amendment's not important enough? Then what's the point? And it's always a left-right thing. Trump and the Republicans and the Democrats came together to fund Operation Warp Speed, all the pharmaceutical stuff. A lot of the past PrEP Act and National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act was Republicans signing it, Reagan and George Bush. So it's like, and then the Democrats take it over the top, and we never saw that coming. It's good cop, bad cop. Republicans to conservatives are the good cop. So they're like, give me your license or registration. They're talking nice to you, but they're trying to get information. They work with the bad cop. They're not being nice to you like they're going to be on your side. It's good cop, bad cop. And then to liberals, the Democrats are the good cop and the Republicans are the bad cop. But neither side wants to admit it. And it's starting to grow. But, this war really, I think, shook a lot of people out of their false paradigms because now they're being called all the names that they once called everybody else. But in general, I saw somebody saying that these hate speech laws are fascist and they're disappointed Democrats are passing them because they're fascists. They're supposed to pass them. Call it fascist, call it socialist, call it communist, call it Bolshevik, call it left wing, call it right wing, call it corruption, bipartisan. I don't care what you call it as long as you know it's not right. If you want to call COVID fascist, and my left wing friends want to call it fascist, I understand why, because, Trump is technically more right than left. And I think bigger government under right-wing religious is usually called fascist, and godless is usually called socialist. And then there's, socialist for your country, and then like international socialism for everybody but yourself. But in general, it's like, I don't care about these words and labels. Like, do you know that infringing on the First Amendment is wrong? I don't care if you're left-wing or right-wing, if you can get to that point. But the problem is everybody's a hypocrite about it. The same left-wingers that are calling it fascist, they'd probably be fine with policing speech for Black and homosexuality, So it's like, how many people are fully honest? Not a lot. That's the real civil war, And if the feds are watching this stream, I'm actually making people more peaceful. The civil war is not running around being angry all the time. It's peaceful, nonviolent, and simply just telling the truth to yourself. That's the real quote unquote civil war. All these stupid LARPers on the Republican side, they're just setting you up to sell more gold and sell more insurance or whatever the hell they do. You understand? It's like and that's the funny thing. When you listen to me, I'm getting a little like passionate this stream because I really believe in this. But in general, like people are always like, oh, he's pretty chill. He's pretty calm. He's pretty like fair. You listen to like most Republican media and they're just yelling all the time. They're like, wah, 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 China, wah, wah, wah. Like they're just like screaming. Maria Bartiromo's like, bah, bah, bah. It's like, dude, who let the bird out of the zoo? I'm just kidding. Hopefully Maria Bartiromo is white, because if not, then I just committed like multiple hate speech crimes. But I'm just joking. She just sounds like a bird to me. I don't even know. I think she's Italian. Thank God, or else it would be a huge a huge cancel thing on my hand. But she just sounds like a bird. Every time she just screams, it's just like I just gotta like close my ears. It's too much. But in general, like everyone's yelling, everyone's mad. It's the left, it's this, and then people who watch them are like civil war, and then people who watch Rachel Maddow, she's like Russia, and people are like, ooh. You're like, hey, I voted for Trump, and they're like, ooh. It's like, dude, they're driving you crazy. This is why I got into the media. Because I just was like looking at both sides. I'm like, they're both psychopaths. They're both trying to make you insane. The left and the right wing media. It's like the border. It's like, then close it. And then the Texas governor's like, I'm going to close the border now. It's like 4 years into the Biden administration. He's like, I'm going to use my power to do it now. 4 years after. That's crazy. Why didn't you do it 4 years ago? I don't know. I didn't think of it then. How'd you not think of it? It's like the first thing I would think about. It's just crazy. Someone said anomaly, settle down. Can you not handle a comedy routine? Would you go to a comedy show and be like, oh, settle down. You're Jim Brewer. You're really yelling and doing a lot of impressions. That's the bit. Don't ruin the show. Doesn't it remind you like they're making a skit of W? Absolutely. I always used to say Tom and Jerry. It's been a while. But it's like Tom and Jerry. Everybody thinks that like the cat's going to get the mouse. Like that's like Trump is like Tom and Jerry is like the Democrats and Nancy Pelosi and like Chrissy Teigen to QAnon running away. And they're like, oh, they're going to get him next episode. They're not. The whole show is predicated on not catching the mouse. The second you catch the mouse, the show ends and the money stops being made. That's politics. They're both like, they're like, oh, what's his name? Gwen Shapiro, what's the guy's name? Oh my gosh, everything's anti-Semitic. Yeah, Gwen Shapiro. Gwen Shapiro tweeted out that the White House was like basically Hamas. And it's like the White House is putting together all federal agencies to track and combat anti-Semitism. Would Hamas hijack our government to police hate speech for Jewish people online? Like, dude, Ben Shapiro sucks. Ben Shapiro is just as bad as Rachel Maddow. The fact that anybody likes him or believes him is insane. It's like, I don't like Joe Biden, but you're saying he's like literally Hamas. He's captured by Hamas. Oh yeah, because Hamas would definitely want to pass anti-Semitism bills to bring all the federal agencies under a task force to police the slight criticism of Israel, because that's really what they're doing. They'll throw an entire ethnicity under the freaking bus, like psychopaths, to be like, oh, it's not good for anybody. It's not good for most Jewish people. They don't ask for it. No, half of them probably don't even know it's happening, because it's mostly politicians, a lot of which happen to be, Christian, by the way. But it's like, how is that helping anybody? Read the laws. Like half of them are related to not criticizing Israel or not talking about Israel. It's like a foreign country needs hate speech laws to say that a foreign country has no power in our country. Oh yeah. Like you got to be real dumb to not understand that one, which most people are. So maybe it'll work. It's like, yeah, a foreign country has so little power that there's going to be a law passed in a different country that you can't criticize or boycott that country, but you can do that to your own country, but not that country. And you can't say that that country has power over that country, because that breaks the laws that we just passed that prove that there's no power there. And by the way, the ADL is supporting this bipartisan thing that Republicans are passing. So anybody that thinks that because they listen to Ben Shapiro that the ADL is just a left-wing organization, the Republicans work with them constantly and do their bidding all the time. Maybe not directly work with them, but it's, if you look at the ADL, it definitely has a left-wing skew, but it's an international Jewish organization by Wikipedia. Like look on their website. It's for that. So when the right fake fights with them, like, oh, we're so different than them because they're so left-wing, then why are you trying to infringe on the First Amendment and police rhetoric that makes them excited? It's because that's who the Republicans are. They're shameless con artists. And it really annoys me now. A couple of years ago, not so much, but now when I watch like a Turning Point thing and you got everybody on the stage just clapping for Ted Cruz, it's like Republicans should be ashamed of themselves. They're like, yeah, I'm getting sold out. Yeah, they're printing trillions of dollars and creating inflation and then blaming Joe Biden. This is good for us. It's like, it's not good for you. It's like, why are you incentivizing it? Like they probably get off the stage and go backstage and think to themselves, these people are freaking stupid. Like, how do they not know what I'm doing? Anyway, I wonder what Jordan Peterson says about this legislation. He's not going to say anything about it because he's like a empty vessel sock puppet. The dude has like no soul. He's intelligent guy. He's good at debating feminists, but when it comes to like his return, he's just like a sock puppet at this point. He's got no original thoughts about anything in this category. And he probably will never talk about it because he wouldn't be able to be there if he did talk about it. And if he does talk about it, he'll probably lie about it and say it's not what it really is, or say that it's just stopping, protests gone too far, which it's not. So it's like that guy, he's a Canadian, which is fine. I like Canadians, but it's like he moves to America. He cries. He wants to infringe on the Second Amendment because he heard a Matt McConaughey propaganda video. Like he's just a clown. I can't listen to men that aren't at least like as smart as me anymore because it just makes me feel dumber. Like Jordan Peterson is just like, he had a moment. I think he's really good at debating feminists and he's really good at debating mainstream media, and he crushed it. I think he's done a lot of good. I'm not saying he's not impressive. In his category, he is very impressive. But when it comes to everything else, he's actually not. He's not good at politics. He's not good at foreign policy. He's not good on free speech. He's not good on the Second Amendment. He's really just like, not good at those things. So he of course he's not going to talk about it. Anyway, I'm only going to be here for a few more minutes because the sun's going down, and that was my lighting. I was getting like natural lighting, so I don't want to ruin you guys with my bad lighting. So I'll just do, what do we got? 48. I'll do like 5 to 10 more minutes, but the lighting's going to get crappier. I apologize. Let's see. Someone said, are Democrats and Republicans supporting Israel? Supporting Israel and selling out the First Amendment are two different things. So I want to make this clear because it's always getting misconstrued. If Americans just supported Israel, I don't care. But first of all, what does support mean? Does support mean selling out the Constitution? Does support mean limiting what you could say and making it illegal to boycott? Like, it's only making more people realize that that's something that they need to realize. Because, like, 10 years ago, no one cared about this stuff. And you could see back in the 70s, the Shah of Iran, it's going viral now on Twitter. He literally said, all the bullying going on in the mainstream media by, the group that must not be named or else it's hate speech. He's like, it's not even gonna work for Israel. And Mike Wallace goes, well, what do you mean? And he said, they're bullying so many people that it's gonna make people not like them more. Where right now nobody cares. So it's like he predicted that 40 years ago, that what they're doing and all this extra policing of that type of speech is only going to be bad for Israel. And you could see that right now. There's not a single person, and this is why self-accountability is so important. There's not a single person in the world that could have turned everybody against Israel more than the people that are pro-Israel and pro-Zionist right now. And I'm just going to be honest, because I actually think I could make a better argument for Israel. Even with Dave Smith, I was trying to kind of question him and press him because he was going pretty far. And I was like, I want to, ask the counter. I think I'm not just saying this. I really think that there is a case for Israel. I think there's a case for Israel's existence. I think there's a case for Israel to fight Hamas. I think there's a case for Israel to do some crazy stuff that some people think is unethical. Here's my problem, among many. None of the pro-Zionists I follow on Twitter are making this case. They sound insane. They're constantly lying. They're constantly making up stuff. Like they're so bad at telling the truth. It's insane. So it's like, it's not that I don't think it's possible. It's just, it's not the anti-Semites who are rising the disdain of Israel. It's Israel and the people in America who are pro-Israel. It sounds crazy, but like I follow at least 50 pro-Zionist people. And I think that Israel has a right to exist and defend itself. And I don't even know what they're talking about. I'm like, dude, these people suck at telling the truth. They're constantly lying. They're constantly like smearing everybody's anti-Semitic. They have no good points. They make up the dumbest talking points and say that because Hamas won an election 20 years ago, that kids should be killed, basically, because they support Hamas. And then the same people that will, like the same Zionist people that'll be like, there's a lot of terrorists in Palestine, like lots. And you're like, okay, fair. And they're like, so you want to take the refugees? Do you want America to take the refugees who you just call terrorists? Like, that's like, do you get what I'm saying? There's no anti-Semite on the planet that could make people this suspicious of the Israeli-American relationship. It's the pro-Zionists that are just exposing themselves as like total liars. And I'm not saying that you have to be a liar or there's no people on the other side that are liars. Of course there are. I'm just saying self-awareness would go a long way. Like, it's the pro-Israel people in America that are making people turn against Israel. It's the speech laws. It's the constant lie. Like, there's a case to be made. I even tried to make it against Dave because Dave's way more pro-Palestine, or I'm not going to say pro-Palestine, but he thinks that what they're doing is wrong. I'm not saying the other, but it's like, I'm asking, if you notice in that interview, I'm asking Dave questions to give the pro-Zionist side just to be a good interviewer, where it's like, well, do they have a right to do that? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, does the other side want to hurt them? Because maybe that's why they're hurting them, thinking that they're going to hurt them. Why do they want to? Like, I'm making a better argument for pro-Zionists than Zionists are for themselves. Like, their arguments are like, well, Hamas won an election in the 2000s, so let's kill them. You're like, that's crazy. And they're like, yeah, the terrorists are all over the place. It's like most of them are connected to Hamas. You're like, okay. So what do you want to do with them? Oh, send them to America as refugees. Oh, you want us to take the terrorists? Oh, how nice. What a good ally you are. It's like, even, I follow Cernovich, and I bring him up a lot because he does make some good points sometimes. And, he was like, he's kind of on the fence. And I feel like he's somebody that the Zionists actually like. He's like the only one they won't call anti-Semitic because he plays both sides. But even he said, and I think he's right about this, he said, listen, he goes, the Zionists got to get better talking points. He's just like, I'm just going to be honest with you guys. You guys sound ridiculous. You can't go off of what like 2000 neocons said because it doesn't work anymore. Like, you got to think of real arguments. There is an argument to be had for you. You're just not doing it. So that's the ultimate irony of all of this stuff, is that the people that want to stop people from feeling this way are the reason that people feel this way. The people that want to police speech, call names, and say you shouldn't feel that way, they're creating a huge portion of the left and right that feels that way. And it's because of their actions, or at least words. Glenn said you're all over the place, derailing yourself with this self-contradiction. Well, Glenn, tell me how I contradicted myself. Let me know. I'll give you a chance, okay? Because you got 6 minutes, so hurry up. I'm keeping this under an hour. How did I contradict myself? Let me know. Argue for thee, not for me. What are you even talking about? Is that the best you got, bro? You got the floor, bro. 2 minutes. Think of something intelligent. Type, and then put it out. If you can't, then unfortunate. Someone said there's no argument. Whether you think there's an argument or not, you have to admit that the people that are pro-Israel are not having good arguments. Like, that's why they have to use the word anti-Semitic so much, because it's like if you're losing a debate, you just call someone racist or sexist or anti-Semitic. It's like, should biologically born men play women's volleyball? And you're like, no. And you're like, oh, that's anti-transphobe. And it's like, that word just means I don't know what I'm talking about. Quick, let me make you look bad. You understand? Someone says, sure, you don't show articles of evidence. Articles of what evidence? What do you want? Like, what are you even talking about? What do you want to see evidence of? What evidence do you want to see? On what topic, bro? I literally showed articles at the beginning of this video, but I don't even get what you're talking about. Be like Dan Bongino? No. This is the not be like Dan Bongino show. Like, it's so ridiculous, but whatever, dude. You're like 20 years behind. Let me read a few comments. Someone said you didn't contradict. He's not even making sense. He's like, read. It's like, it's China, everybody. I'm just going to not talk about the anti-Semitism speech laws that Republicans are passing because it's like, that's what boomers want sometimes. Anyway, someone said Candace said it perfectly. Them claiming anti-Semitism is like BLM claiming everything racist. I'll leave on this note because that word, the more that people say anti-Semitism, the more it gets watered down. And I think a lot of people see that, but in general, this is my personal belief, okay? A lot of people don't believe this because people like black people that believe in the word racist or Jewish people that believe in the word anti-Semitic, they don't want to lose that word because it's like a word that they could use to, that's very advantageous. But for me, I believe if you know what you're talking about, you don't have to use those words. Like if you listen to me, like someone listened to me and Dave Smith's thing and they retweeted and said, this is anti-Semitic. What about what? It's just anti-Semitic. It's a word that means I can't articulate what I mean. So I'm just going to say this word that makes you look bad and me look good. If you notice, I never use those words seriously anymore. And it's not because there's not bad people out there. I could point out that's wrong. This is why it's wrong. This is what I think's right. That's bad. This is why it's bad. This is what I think's good. If I can't articulate that, I probably don't know what I'm talking about. So there's big bucks in politics for people to just say that's anti-Semitic, that's racist, that's sexist, that's xenophobic. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Like, what does anti-Semitic means? It means you can't say that a biblical verse, you can't say that they disproportionately dominate certain industries, even though they do. But then there could be a discussion as to why. Maybe high IQ, maybe they're talented at stuff, maybe something else. Like, it's like with the crime rate. It's like the crime rates racially are what they are. They're not what people want them to be. They are what they are. We could have a discussion about why. Could be historical, could be fathers out of the home, could be lack of religion, could be something else, but like in order to explain why, if you just said that stat is racist, that stat is anti-Semitic, it's like, it doesn't actually mean anything. It means I don't want to talk about that, and I perceive what you're saying is hateful. People say I'm being hateful with Trump all the time. I say Trump took $1 million from Pfizer and they go, that you just hate him. He took $1 million from Pfizer. Factually, he took pharmaceutical lobbying money and then hired pharmaceutical people after that. That's hateful. No, that's just honest, and you don't want to hear it. So you're lying and saying I'm being hateful. So it's the same thing with racist and anti-Semitic. It's like there are people that are bad. There are people that are evil. There are people that suck, and there are people that have bad attitudes. Me personally, I think that people that have bad attitudes and hate people, it's a reflection of themselves. They hate themselves, and that's why they deflect it onto other people. But it's like, if you're constantly just using that word to wipe things under the rug, I don't think intellectual people use those words without being able to explain themselves. So it's like, it's like a crutch. It's like if you curse all the time and then someone says, Anomaly, you should stop cursing. I probably should. Cursing is kind of a crutch. It's I try not to curse, especially on Facebook. I rarely curse, and sometimes I do for comedic reasons or passionate, but it's like I don't just curse every 5 seconds. Imagine if I was just cursing every second. It's the same thing as saying racist or anti-Semitic every second. It's an intellectual crutch when you don't have anything like intelligent to articulate. You just say that because it comes with a certain connotation. And there's that's all the pro-Zionist people on my Twitter feed, not all of them, but a lot of them, people that I respect, that I like, that I think are very honest about other topics. It's not that their pro-Israelness is what, I don't mind that. I think it's totally fine, understandable, respectable. You could be patriotic. I'm not against it at all. It's just what they're saying doesn't ever make sense. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, does this person, and then once people realize that they're not being honest, they just yell anti-Semitism, and I'm like, there is a pro-Israel case. There is a way to say what you're saying and seem reasonable, but you're not even interested in that. You're just constantly lying, making up stuff, and then saying that it's hate speech to say that anyone disagrees with you or shares a meme on your comments. So it's like they're losing the honesty battle, and I don't think that they're interested in it. Not everybody, and the reason that they don't care is because there's hate speech laws being pushed in their bias. It would be like if I just called everyone racist all the time and you're like, does Anomaly know he's lying about all this stuff? What if I told you I don't care because there's racist speech law being passed that eventually your opinions are going to be illegal. Your opinions are going to be investigated. Your opinions are going to get you arrested. Your opinions are going to get you thrown somewhere worse. Hopefully not. Your opinions are going to get the feds doing task force on you. That's what these people are doing on this side. They know that they're being dishonest. They know that their accusations are false. They know that they're losing the argument, but they don't even want to change because they know that these policies are coming behind them, even the conservatives. You think they don't know that? How do you not know that? That's it's everywhere. Everyone knows this now. It's been 6 years of hate speech legislation being passed by Republicans. The reason that all of these political people that won't talk about it, the reason they're not talking about it, either they make millions not talking about it, they know that it will get them kicked out of social circles where they get their money and get a lot of their influence, or they want the hate speech laws because their arguments are so shitty that once they have these hate speech laws on their side, they will artificially quash the discussion so that they look good again, because they don't look good on Twitter. And I'm not saying everybody in the comments look good. There's a lot of douchey people out there that don't help, and they constantly just make everything weird and uncomfortable. But you can't judge your argument off of what someone else dumb says. That doesn't make your argument any better. So that's what's going on. I mean, there's a lot of people. The one that they're passing now, no, it's just a bill. It didn't pass, but I'll tell you what, it's going to pass. It's going to pass. Republicans are compromised. Thomas Massey's one of the only people who opposes it. It'll probably pass so crazily heavily. It'll probably pass by 90%. So Republicans care about the Constitution except for one country. Republicans care about the Constitution except for one race and religion. And when it comes to that, they're all your Ted Cruz is going to vote for it. Tom Cotton's going to vote for it. And here's one of the last things I'm going to say, because the lighting's getting worse. If you love a country and a group of people so much, can you love them without taking donor money? Because I could love people. I could love Christians and Muslims and Jews and blacks and whites and Asians without taking donor money. I love the world. I didn't take money to say it. I love Italy. I didn't take money to say it. I love Israel. I love Palestine. No one paid me to say that. I'm just being honest. It's like all these politicians that say they love Israel and Jewish people so much, they're always taking donor money for those causes. Can you love without taking money? I love, State Farm insurance. If they pay me enough, that's what they're doing. They're just acting like they love so much more than you. It's like they're actually scumbags, because they're actually making it worse for people, because they're doing the worst of both worlds. They're pissing off Republicans. They're pissing off Democrats. They're pissing off constitutionalists. They're infringing on the First Amendment, and they're making it more uncomfortable for Jewish people, because it's just making more disdain, because it's lopsided laws. And I actually feel bad for good people, because, before this war really broke out, obviously Hamas is complicit and they did something. I'm not saying they did nothing, and they did atrocities. And of course, if it's someone debating Candace Owens, it's the worst atrocity ever, and there's nothing been any comparable, and everyone else's atrocities dull in comparison to yours, My Majesty. But yeah, no, I think it's horrible. But the response from Israel has made it so uncomfortable for so many Jewish people. And it sucks because like a year or two ago, no one gave a crap about anything and everything was fine. And now everybody feels a little weird. And I'm not saying they should, but it's like, it's the response. So, even if you read Israeli news, I'm not saying you should, but like if you do and you get out there and read worldly news, there's a lot of people in Israel that are saying like Netanyahu is really screwing it up for us. You know what I'm saying? Like he's making it really uncomfortable for us. Like we wish he would stop doing this right now. Like I think his point was made. And it's not like everyone is pro what he's doing, because it's making it, someone wrote in Haaretz today, they said that the actions of Israel are making people like Trump and Tucker Carlson turn their back a little more, and Trump and Tucker Carlson are influential, and like we should probably think about that, which is totally true. It's like that. I didn't read the whole article, but from what I read, it was fair. It was like, I think we're losing some of our biggest supporters in the conservative movement, and that's not good. It's like, yeah, for sure. I appreciate the self-awareness. That's an intelligent article that I think makes sense. That's what's going on. So it's like all these scumbag Republicans and scumbag Democrats, I despise them the same way I despise liberal politicians who say we're helping black people and Mexicans. You're not doing shit for, excuse my language, you're not doing anything for black people or Mexican. You're just constantly lying and using them as a scapegoat to raise money for yourself and screw up everybody's communities and make the country worse for everybody. It's the same thing Republicans are doing with these anti-Semitism speech laws. They're just making donor money, trying to make it illegal for you to say that they're taking donor money, and then making it uncomfortable for all normal people. Like I got dozens of Jewish friends, and none of them are going to get like protected by these hate speech laws. It's more for like the George Soros types, the billionaires, people who actually own stuff. Because if you don't actually own stuff, then some of the laws don't even apply to you. It's like, you can't say that this is in power. It's like, well, yeah, the person with no power is not going to get the benefit as much as the hedge fund guy with like $10 billion or whoever. So it's like, it's not good for anyone. It's not even good for Israel. I would argue that it's created more opposition to Israel in both parties. So it's like, I don't understand. Like, I do understand why they're doing it, for money and power. And some people have a racial connection to it. Other people have a religious connection to it, whether it be for Christian or Judaism. There's two different visions of what they're going to get out of it, which is a fascinating conversation for another time. But it's like, it's a lie to say that they're passing these to make anti-Semitism decline on school campuses. It's like, so you think using federal agencies to spy on people who are critical of Israel is going to make people like Israel more? That's insane. These people are crazy. You think infringing on the First Amendment, saying that you're not allowed to say stuff, including the word Jesus in the anti-Semitism laws, is going to make Christians like you even more. It's only made millions of Christians be like, this is BS. Why are there no laws for me? Or why are there laws at all? I'm a constitutionalist. There's no way this is helping anybody. Who could this possibly be helping besides the people that are passing it and making money off it? And I think people need to just come to terms how big of sellouts people really are. People really are this big of sellouts. They really don't like you. They put on cowboy hats when they're Republican, and they do the BLM thing when they're Democrats, but they don't like you. And once Democrats and Republicans realize how sick some of these people are in politics, that's when the country gets better. And when the country gets better, it gets safer for everybody. Like I've made the argument for a while, like if you look at a lot, maybe not in Florida because it's nice there, but in New York and Beverly Hills, in a lot of the Jewish areas, it's getting way less safe, right? But the reason, if you really look at why it's getting less safe over the last couple of years, it's because of Democrat policies, demographic change, and just really horrible policing of communities. So if this country gets better and those communities are policed, Jewish communities are going to be safer. Asian communities are going to be safer. White, God forbid I say white communities are going to be safer. But in general, it's like every black communities could be safer. Everybody could get better if the country gets better together. But it's like the country's falling apart, and they're going to pass anti-Semitism speech laws as everybody's getting robbed in LA because it sucks for everybody. But they don't want to talk about that. It's like, talk to most Jewish people that are honest that live in Beverly Hills. It's like any decline they've seen over the last couple of years, it's probably just LA declining and just like their area of the city getting robbed more. Everybody's afraid of getting robbed, their Rolex getting stolen, their car getting broken into. That's what people are facing. But they never do anything about that, do they? No, they just got to pass a speech law and this and that because they love her. They don't care about you. It's so obviously a lie that's making more tension and making more disdain all across the board. Even with like, the word Islamophobia, I believe, is made up. It's another like, oh, you're afraid. It's like, yeah, people are dicks, let's just say that. Like there's bad and good people that are righteously confused or upset, and then people that are just, not nice. But in general, it's like they're trying to like rehash the 2000s like Muslim thing again because they know that works with a lot of patriots, and it's like it's ridiculous, like it's just like they're trying to just rile everybody up on all sides, so then people just get pissed at each other so they can raise more donor money, and God knows what else they're doing. But that's the overall. I know I stayed longer than I said I would. This is the issue with all of it. If you really care about people, in my opinion, if you really care about people, you can't pass speech laws for one group and expect people to like that. Like, you think if you were trying to protest Israel on a college campus and some guy takes a picture of your face and doxes you and says he's going to harass you for the rest of your life, which a Republican did, by the way, I'm not going to say, you got to look it up, but like some Republican guy is like, I'm taking pictures of their faces and I'm putting them on a van and I'm going to drive them outside their house. And he's like, I'm going to follow them for the rest of their life and harass them. Oh yeah, that's really going to make them like Jewish people in Israel for sure. Just harass them for the rest of their lives over a college protest of a foreign nation. That's going to really make them like you. So, I mean, that's psychotic. You know what I'm saying? And the more people do that, the more people realize that it's happening, and the less people that care about the word anti-Semitism, because 95% of Democrats have been called anti-Semitic recently. Even the Republicans passing the anti-Semitism hate speech laws have been called anti-Semitic. Everyone on Twitter gets called anti-Semitic. Candace Owens is anti-Semitic. Dennis Prager's like, it doesn't mean anything at this point to anyone because that word is so obviously overused. But here's the thing. If they pass it into legislation, it doesn't matter what everyone thinks. They're going to start policing speech in America like other countries. But here's the thing. The more people that realize it's happening and express their concern to Republicans, the quicker these things change. And I would even go this far. Like, this is why the grifters in the MAGA movement annoy me so much. They're literally as bad as Rachel Maddow. They're making millions of dollars lying to you, millions of dollars being controlled opposition, and they gatekeep that because they don't want to stop getting the money. I would argue that they're actually worse than Rachel Maddow, which is insane because she's horrible. But that's how bad some of these influencers are. They know this is happening. They don't say anything. They make more money when nobody cares and nobody knows because they don't want to rock the boat. So this could all be solved simply. I'll give you one extremely peaceful, obvious solution that would be so easy. If everybody at Turning Point USA booed Ted Cruz and these speakers and said, we realize that you're selling out the Constitution, you suck. If everyone did that, they wouldn't do it. They would. Now they're in a rock and a hard place. Do I go with my donors or do I go with my constituents? And they'd probably eventually have to do what you want them to do. They feel no pressure. Ted Cruz gets treated like Paul McCartney. Like, literally, I mean, it makes you sick to your stomach when he comes out. They're like, Ted Cruz. He's like, Ted Cruz. And there's like 10,000 like college students like, oh my God, you're so cool. I saw you on Charlie Kirk's Instagram. I saw you on Steven Crowder's show. DC Trader, you're so cool. It's like, why would he ever stop selling you out when that's the response he gets? He comes out, he's like, why do these people like me so much? I'm a piece of garbage. Like, it's crazy. So it's like the simple solution would be if MAGA and the Republican movement was just like, stop doing that, Trump. Even like Dave Smith talked about yesterday, he's like, I can't believe how many MAGA people just act like that never happened. It's like they're just as bad as liberals. They're gatekeeping their own demise. Like, it's like the train's going 100 miles off the tracks, and it's like, yo, do you want to tell Trump to stop? And you're like, no, I'm a patriot. It's like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. You know what I'm saying? Like, all these things are going to happen, And with inflation too, people are like, it's Biden inflation. It's Biden and Trump inflation. If Trump got in, inflation's going to come. It's not going down because they printed too much money because of COVID. Trump was in on it. Biden's in on it. There's the answer. That's the truth. It's not libertarian. It's basic reality. But libertarians know it because they're smart on this topic. It's like, if you can't admit that, wow, you put on a Trump hat. Wow, you went to a rally and said Biden inflation. Like you're as big of an idiot as a Rachel Maddow viewer. And this is the hard part, is people don't want to admit that. So they just like, no, I'm so much better. And it's like, you're not though, you know, and I can't understand the stubbornness. You know, sometimes someone in the comments was like, they were like, oh, Anomaly is going to say that he made Tucker Carlson do that. Like joking about that. I'm like, you know, arrogant. Like I'm going to take credit for it. No, I had nothing to do with Tucker doing that, but I get the joke. I actually thought it was hilarious because oftentimes I do hold it down for myself and stay stuff. As much as I talk about myself and what I've done so much, I'm really not egotistical when it comes to reality. I'm just honest. If I really did it, I'll tell you I did it. If I'm happy and excited about it, yeah. If I feel like someone's not trying to give me credit, I'm gonna give myself credit. But I'm humble enough to know when I'm wrong. Like I'm humble enough to be like, oh, I got tricked. Oh, that person tricked me. Oh, Bernie Sanders is a phony. Oh, Trump, I thought he was gonna be different, but he's not. Like that's real lack of ego, is like realizing, oh, that's happening. But like most people, they don't have that. They just keep going along with like the Democrats and the Republicans, like marching just high speed. And you're like, it's so obvious. Like how did Democrats not know this? How did Trump supporters not know this? Like, it's so obvious. It's got to be like huge ego or just like massive lack of self-awareness and self-accountability. And that's really all it is. Like, yeah, some people are going to be cocky and arrogant and some people are going to be shy and meek. I understand that, but like this country's filled with 80% like just people that are too stubborn. I'm very stubborn on some cases, but I'm not that stubborn. And I'm a very, like, you know what I'm saying? It blows my mind how stubborn people are. Because it's like, if someone said, I'm super humble. Yeah, I'm so humble. I could write a book. I could write an 8-series book called Humble Potter and the Chamber of Secrets and Humble Potter and the Deathly Hallows. No, I'm just kidding. But Humble Potter, that's kind of funny. Anyway, jokes aside, I don't want to, that's a funny joke. Someone said, Boo Boo Williams, that's a funny joke, but I don't want to get canceled, so I can't read the joke. It's a hate speech offense. But anyway, God bless you guys. Appreciate you. Have a beautiful day. I don't know if I'll be back tomorrow or Saturday or Sunday, but I'll definitely be back Monday, maybe tomorrow, maybe not. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. And, you know, America has a lot of problems, but none of those problems are ever going to get solved if we lose the First Amendment. And they're trying really hard to turn us into Europe or Canada. All I ask from people, and I say this, don't get mad. Get glad. No, I'm just kidding. Don't get mad. Just know that it's happening and stop going along with the herd. That's all it takes. That's the real like revolution. It's not being angry because you listen to some blowhard fake Republican tell you about war or something. The real revolution is just being like, no, I'm not going to walk with all the other sheep, and I'm going to start having conversations, and I'm going to, you know, do my due diligence to let my friends know that this is happening. Or like if I'm in a political group, let's talk about it. Let's not call each other hateful. Let's have a conversation about it. That's the real shift. It's already starting to happen, but you know, it's just like they keep ramping up these hate speech laws. And if anybody's watched me for the last few years, I knew they would. Of course they would. Like, you don't change the definition of a word to add hate speech phrases in 50 different states or 30 different states to not use it. They're going to use this on a bigger scale. And it's going to start ending up in lawsuits too. Like, people don't get what they're doing, but it's like, you know, I saw this come out and I was like, of course it is. Of course. But appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you like my interview with Dave yesterday. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I think it went well. And I tried. I mean, we agree on a lot. I think, honestly, like I've wanted to talk to Dave Smith for a while because I've just always seen his stuff, and I never was ever upset by what he said. I'm not sure that I've agreed with everything he's ever said ever on like every podcast, but like I always thought he meant well and he was a genuine person, and it seemed like he was, you know, a good guy. So I was really excited for that because I never got to talk to him, and I had a great time. I mean, we agreed on a lot of stuff, but even some of the Israel stuff, like he definitely has more conviction against certain things. I tried to do a good job of, like, I know it's just a podcast, but I tried to do a good job of interviewing and challenging him. I hope you guys saw that, where it's like, you know, I get what you're saying, like, and I understand that perspective, but that's how I learn a lot. Like, even, I'm actually, despite what they, some may say, I'm not anti-Israel, and I'm not like against their existence. I don't think that's my role, or I don't think I don't feel that way. But it's like, at the same time, if you're constantly going to lie and, do weird stuff and call everybody anti-Semitic, it's not like people are going to not like that. But in general, it's like, if someone says they should do this, this, and this, I'm always going to ask why. Cause it's like, I get what you're saying, but since Dave has strong conviction and he knows a lot, I'm like, well, this is what they say. Here's what they're saying. Here's what, like, I try to do a good job of like a interviewer and be like, let me push back and challenge it and see how he handles it. And, he's very educated and he knows a lot of stuff, a lot of interesting history. Like, it was a great convo. I had a good time. I was pretty thrilled with how it came out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But yeah, it was a good time. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one. And someone said, does he believe? I gotta go. I said I was gonna go 40 minutes ago, but we'll talk soon. Maybe tomorrow, maybe not.
Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, stay blessed long sleeve, God is great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/raretalk for $5 a month.